How to remove the alternator from a 2009 Honda Accord V6. We're going to make this really easy. First thing I want you to do is disconnect your battery. Then you're going to begin popping these clips using a small screwdriver and potentially a needle nose plier to remove this shroud. Once you start taking some of them off, you'll get the hang of how they come out. Once the shroud is removed, you're going to remove this bracket right here, which is held on by 2 bolts underneath this. Come off really easily. Once you've removed that, obviously take off your cap here. This coolant reservoir literally just comes straight up. May take a little bit of wiggling to make that come off. You're going to remove this shroud. You've got 2 screws that require a 1/4 turn. I just use a fat blade screwdriver so I don't strip anything, but it's an easy turn, nothing hard, 1/4 turn, and then this is removed. That's going to give you the clearance you need in order to access removing your alternator. Whether you do it now or you do it a little bit later on, I'm going to encourage you to jack up the passenger side of the vehicle. That's going to give you access to underneath the vehicle, which is necessary for a couple of components to get this job done. Once you have everything out of the way, you're going to remove this bolt. That loosens up this bracket so you can remove this boot a little easier. And then the nut on here, you're going to remove this boot and the nut underneath there. And looking very carefully, there is a clip right there. You can reach your hand down and then just pull it off. You may have to just do a little bit of wiggling to make that come off. And then you've disconnected all the electrical components of the alternator. The next thing you're going to do is disconnect your electric fan. It has 4 bolts, 2 on top, and then directly below that you're going to access from underneath the vehicle are 2 other bolts. You'll remove these 2, but the bottom bolts you're going to simply loosen. You're going to get them nice and loose. It requires an 8mm box end wrench on the passenger side, and I was able to use an 8mm socket, a small socket set, to loosen the bolt on the driver's side. Once that's done, and you're under the vehicle, loosening up those bottom bolts, you have this clip right here. That clip, the whole unit is mounted to the electric fan by a metal hook. You can keep that on for now. When you're underneath the vehicle, I was able to use my hand and a screwdriver to disconnect the bottom side of this connector so that I can just lift out the fan completely, get it out of the way. And I can't think of any other way of getting the alternator out without removing that, but it is easy. In order to get to those bolts and that clip from underneath the vehicle, you're going to do the same thing, removing the clips from the bottom of the bumper, which also connect your mud flap. If you look right here, you'll see there's the mud flap. Once that's out of the way, you'll have access to everything that you need from underneath. Once you have all that done, you're going to come in with I got a tool from my auto parts store, which is a serpentine belt removal tool. It is an amazing tool. It gives you all the leverage that you need. You're going to connect it right on this bolt right here. And on this particular model, you put your socket on. It's a 19mm socket. With my right hand, I leveraged it this way. It's not a ratchet. It's just applying the pressure. And then with my left hand, I remove the belt. Please be careful not to get your fingers caught under there. But once you've applied enough pressure this way, the belt's going to come off nice and easy. Then you can begin removing the alternator, which, if you've gotten this far in the process, you probably don't need my help on this one. But you have this nut right here. That one is the top bolt. And then down here you have the bottom bolt. There you go. Once you remove that, the alternator will come right out. Grab it, pull your radiator back, and then lift it out. It's a piece of cake. Reinstalling the alternator. It's important to know that you've got the bottom bracket on the alternator where that pin's going to go through, the bottom bolt. And then you have the bracket on the vehicle that alternator bracket is going to slide into. In my particular case, the bracket on the car is just shy of 2 inches wide. The bracket on the new alternator was a little bit wider than 2 inches. So I put it in a vise. There's a little cup on the back end. Crank it down slowly. I measured out where it was, got it to the exact dimension, and it's designed to crunch down. And I was able to reinstall the alternator very easily. A couple of things to keep in mind. You can kind of see right here, there's a little bit of a mark on that cable. On the original alternator, this was clipped to the alternator itself. There's one there, and then there was one that you can't see down here for the connector for the electric fan. I just took a pair of snippers and snipped them both off. It seemed to be the simplest way of removing it. Just make certain you don't clip your cable. If you've gotten this far in the process, the reinstall is really easy. Again, come back in with your serpentine belt tool. I encourage you to replace your belt while you're at this stage of the game. It's going to save you a lot of time, headache, and heartache. Again, you're going to leverage from here, pressing forward, reloop your belt around, reinstall everything. Your clips, make certain that when you push them in, especially on the bottom, that you're getting it all the way through the two, in some cases, 2 pieces of plastic and then into the metal before you lock it in place. Make certain you have all the bolts tightened down, everything all in, fasten your battery back on, and you should be ready to go. I hope this has been of help. I wish I had it before I got started. So this is what I call paying it forward. I really wish you the best.